Hi everyone, so here we are today taking a look at Evolve, but first an apology because there's not been any uploads for a fair few weeks. That's because we've been moving to a brand new office. I now have 2 studios available to me, so over the next couple of weeks you'll be seeing a much wider range of content presented in new ways. But let's take a look at Evolve. So, the Evolve Alpha, they're calling it an alpha, I disagree, it's a beta, but they're calling it an alpha and an opportunity for us to take a look at this monster hunting game that is built around co-op gameplay. 1 person taking on the role of the monster and 4 players taking on the role of the hunters. Now conceptually, this sounds like an awful lot of fun. Get your friends together and take turns being the monster as you try and hunt them down. Unfortunately, where the game falls apart is in the dynamic between these 2 very different playstyles as the monster and the hunters becomes quite tedious. As the monster, your job essentially is to avoid the hunters, whilst killing local wildlife and levelling yourself up. Once you hit stage 3, evolution stage 3 essentially, you're then able to try and destroy the power relay. Destroying the power relay or killing all of the hunters wins you the match. As the hunters, your job is obviously to hunt down the monster, using clues within the environment, the monster's footprints, birds that may flock to where the monster is or be disturbed by the monster. When you're playing as the monster, that actually works really well. It's edge of your seat stuff, where you're constantly trying to keep away from the hunters, moving as fast as you possibly can, or creeping around the map to try and limit the amount of disturbance you'll cause, and thus the ability for the hunters to track you. But however, when you're playing as the hunters, the game just becomes tedious, and I mean really tedious. I spent on many matches as a hunter, simply wandering around following glowing footprints on the floor. And when you've done that over a 15-minute match for a good 10 to 12 minutes, you find yourself, quite frankly, bored to tears. It's a real shame that this game conceptually should work beautifully, but maybe just needs a substantial amount of retuning on the hunter's side of things. For starters, the monster's actual base move speed appears to actually be too quick, allowing the monster to effectively continuously move around the map, and only if the hunters are really clever or the monster makes a mistake are they going to catch up with them. Time and time again, I found myself greatly preferring to play the monster because it was a continuously engaging process of emergent gameplay, trying to stay away from those hunters whilst feeding, then trying to find somewhere you can evolve to the highest levels. But as the hunters, things just become so bogged down in walking and traversing the environment with very little combat. When the combat does actually happen, it is fast and furious, really fast and furious, and beautifully well detailed. The way the hunters' weaponry and so on all plays into the emergent gameplay is great. It just happens so infrequently during a match that, like I say, I found myself just getting bored to tears after a while. Now the monster, the Goliath that we've been playing in the alpha, is certainly quite good fun and has a great range of abilities, 4 core abilities as it were, and then perks which can help to augment some of those abilities that are picked at the beginning of the match. It does work quite well to a certain extent, but I can't help but feel that they need to do some tuning here. I'd like to see the monster's base speed just reduced maybe 2%. That would give a little bit more of an opportunity for the hunters to actually catch up, trap the monster, and then be able to go to town on it. I don't see any major problems with the monster's actual attacks or anything like that. They feel really meaty and dangerous. Graphically, this is CryEngine 3, and so it does come with all of the usual caveats of the CryEngine. Frame rates are not the best in the world, even on a high-performance PC. Trying to keep a stable 60 frames a second in this alpha is very difficult. There are also a number of times we've seen on Xbox One where the frame rate has crashed out completely. This usually occurring during moments of fire being on screen, as well as some of the particle effects from rain and snow that we've seen as well. Unfortunately, the engine on Xbox One, it does feel like it's struggling a little tiny bit during this alpha, and again, from what we can see on PC, it does feel that this engine is massively unoptimized right now. I'm looking forward to seeing how the beta stage of Evolve occurs, I think around January time, and hopefully they will tighten up a lot of these areas. They are calling it an alpha, but the game is actually very well polished and it's feature complete, and so you kind of have to look at it and say, well, that's not an alpha, it's just an early beta really, what we'd probably call beta 1. Alphas are really non-working games for the most part, with massive numbers of features missing, placeholder art and so on. That's not here in the Evolve alpha as they've dropped it to us. Like I say, this feels more like a beta, but they just didn't want to quite call it that. I do hope that they improve the gameplay considerably, like I say, tweak those monster stats down a little tiny bit on the movement so the hunters have a few more opportunities to catch up. In part, maybe it's down to people getting used to the game, but having played a good 10 hours worth of Evolve so far on PC and Xbox One, I keep coming back to the same fact that hunters just are not fun to play. There's too much walking around and traversing of the environment and not enough fighting. Thanks for watching. Do please subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch, and please like and comment on these videos as well. We love to chat.